Hi guys, hope you're all having a good day. Today I'm going to be following up on the video I did last week about how to run a faster 5k. This is going to be geared more towards the more elite runner. So as any high level runner will know, a tempo run is a very important aspect of your training schedule for any endurance event really. Anything from 800 meters up to the marathon, and in some cases with some coaches even 400s. So what actually is a tempo run? A tempo run is a run where you're running at or just below the pace or effort that you're still working aerobically, but you're not quite in that anaerobic state. So it's the borderline between aerobic and anaerobic. So it's commonly referred to as your aerobic threshold or your anaerobic threshold. So what this does is running just below that pace or effort will cause your body to adapt to being able to handle that level of lactic acid and be able to counteract it aerobically. So the lactic acid is being broken down aerobically as fast as it's being built up. So lactic acid, what does it do? It is basically just what causes your body to reach that state of fatigue in a race or hit the wall, as is often used in running. So the less lactic acid that's in your body, the more lactic acid that's broken down, the longer it's going to take you to reach that state of fatigue. So, and the longer obviously it takes for you to reach that state of fatigue, the more efficiently you'll be able to use the energy in your body, and the longer you'll be able to last in a race at a certain pace. So how do you know that you're running at your lactic threshold pace? Well, the best way to describe it in feel is running at what they call a comfortable hard. So it's a pace that you're running fast-ish, but you're not exerting a huge amount of energy. Like, you're not pushing for a sprint or close to a sprint. It'll be a bit slower than 5k pace. So for me anyway, I will usually start feeling the lactic build-up after maybe a mile or something into a threshold run. So that's, I don't know about everyone else, but that's normal for me. But if you're starting to feel it straight away, then you're after going off too hard and you're after eliminating the point. Now, what I mean by that is, if you go off too hard in a tempo run, that means that the lactic acid in your body is after building up to a point where it can't fully be broken down aerobically. So even if you drop the pace to back down to your anaerobic threshold, then there's still that extra bit of lactic acid that has been built up, that, like, let's just say I'm not even sure what the actual numbers would be for a tempo, but let's just say there's, for reference, 2 liters of lactic acid just wandering around in your muscles, and your body is able to break down 1.7 liters per minute. I haven't a clue what the actual numbers are, but let's just say that for reference. There's still going to be that 0.3 liters in your body, no matter how much your body breaks down anaerobically, because your body's only able to break down 1.7 liters at a time. So for the rest of that tempo run, there's still going to be that extra bit of lactic acid that your body can't break down. A good way of avoiding this is go off a bit slower than your threshold pace. So if you go off a bit slower, your body's still in an anaerobic state, but it's still producing lactic acid. So there's still lactic acid being produced and broken down, not as much as there would be as going at your aerobic threshold or your anaerobic threshold, whatever you want to call it. But there's your body's still working and adapting to break down the lactic acid buildup. So I said lactic acid so many times in this video, but it's a good way of learning what your threshold pace is. Like you can push that a little bit more every week until you finally feel like you've gone past that threshold, and then you'll know where your threshold is off feel. Anyway, even if you do go off a bit slower, you can still pick it up a bit towards the end, and there'll still be the majority of the run having your body breaking down lactic acid efficiently. And even if there is a bit of extra lactic acid towards the end of the run, sure, it's your body will have still adapted to breaking down lactic acid for the majority of the run, so you're still getting a decent benefit out of it. But if you do that and you pick up the pace to the point where there is a build up towards the end, it's just make sure you get a good cool down and good stretching and all that. Now, talk a lot about how to run tempo run off feel. Now, if you want to stick by pace, the general rule is about 20 to 30 seconds slower per mile than your 5k pace. So in kilometers, that would be 15 to 20 seconds lower than your 5k pace roughly. And I use miles a lot more for running than k's, so I kind of better at speaking them. But yeah, if again, some days are going to be better than others. Like some days you might be hitting let's say 520 for your tempos. The next day, the next tempo you do, you might be feeling crap and you're only hitting 535s. It's more, to be honest, running off feel is kind of, and just going with whatever pace you're running at. Fair enough. Like your body isn't going to be feeling 100% every day, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And that's a problem that I kind of have a lot. I tend to focus too much on pace. But what I'm doing now, I'm not just doing easy runs, I'm doing easy sessions as well. So it'll be intervals of somewhere between 200 and 600 meters, and just doing intervals of them at tempo pace. So that's a good way to try to get used to what your pace is and all that. But again, it's going to be a lot easier to run at a given pace for 200, 300, 400 meters than it is going out and doing it for 3 to 6 miles. Like, so it's a good way to get a good feel for it. But I can't say that just because you have your pace you're going to get that every single time. Like, just worry about the feel. Not every day is going to be, you're not going to be at peak form every single day. Plus, like, on the flip side of that, the day that you ran your 5k PB, you could have been in bad form that day as well. So if you run 20 seconds to 30 seconds slower than your 5k pace should be based on that race, then you could be going a lot slower than your threshold pace and not getting as much potential benefit as you could, then again you will get benefit out of it because your body's still breaking down lactic acid anaerobically. But you, as runners, we want to get the most out of our training as we possibly can. So just consider that and run your tempos off feel. Like, find what your ideal pace is, find what your ideal feel is, and just run off that. It's probably the most important training that you can do for 5Ks, and arguably even 1500s, maybe rivaled by VO2 max training, but it's definitely a very, very, very important factor. So just take what I said into consideration, and I wish you well. So until the next one, see you in the next one.